All right, see then we are getting ready to finish up with the last day of, and I think it's Lolly in Luck is the name of the book today. Yep, or just Lolly Luck. There are 196 pages. I'll go ahead and share the screen. And here we go. You'll be rooting for Lolly Karen McComb. I'd never seen my dad cry before. It certainly wasn't what I was expecting when I got home from school. It was a horrible end to what had started off as the perfect birthday. My morning had begun with a special birthday breakfast of French toast with crispy bacon and a fruit salad topped off with strawberry yogurt, my favorite. Mom had put all my birthday cards into a neat little pile next to my presents and had tied a happy birthday balloon to my chair. But straight away I could tell that one present was missing. The present I'd been looking forward to the most, my brilliant new bike. I knew my parents had bought me a bike. They'd been whispering to each other for weeks, and bike was the word I always picked up. I'd wanted one for ages, a proper grown up bike with gears, which hadn't been handed down from my sister Zola and wasn't covered in Barbie stickers. Zola was already at the table having her breakfast, a yucky concoction of scrambled egg mashed up with baked beans. Even though I like baked beans and I absolutely adore scrambled egg, they so do not go together. Happy birthday, Lollipop, said Mom, giving me a hug. I can't believe you're 11 today. You're going up so fast. You excited? Yeah, totally, I replied. And today's going to be fantastic. Oh, it will be, don't worry. Your dad and I have got you a wonderful present. Dad's been called into work a bit early today, so we'll give it to you this evening. I hope that's okay. I smiled at Mom, of course. But no, it wasn't okay. I wanted my bike at that precise minute, and I wasn't looking forward to waiting 12 tortuous hours before I finally got to see it. Right then, I've got to scoot off myself. Enjoy your breakfast, birthday gal. And Zola, no dawdling on the way to the bus stop, said Mom, grabbing her handbag and looking pointedly at my sister. Make sure you and Lolly get to school on time. Yes, Zola. No flirting with boys and making us late, I mumbled, picking up a slice of French toast. Oh my god, that is such a lie, said Zola, glaring at me. Just because it's your birthday, Lolly, it doesn't mean you can start showing off. Girls, Mom snapped. Can't the two of you get through a day without arguing? We sighed and nodded obediently, but as soon as Mom had left the room, Zola was poking her tongue out, pieces of her vomit-looking breakfast falling onto her plate. Ugh, grow up, Zola, I hissed. My sister is 14, but sometimes it's like she's only 4. I know Mom thinks we argue too much, but really we do get on. And to be honest, I don't think there's anyone else I'd want to be my big sister. I can talk to Zola about anything. And ever since I was really little, she's been there for me. When Zola was still at my primary school, I could always count on her to back me up whenever my arch enemy, Mariella Snedden, tried to upset me with some snidey remark. All Zola needed to do was threaten Mariella with a wallop, which was enough to have her running scared. By the way, happy birthday, Lolly Loser, said Zola, hurling a card and a little parcel at me. Lolly Loser is Zola's horrid pet name for me, even though she knows I'm no loser. I'm Lolly Luck by name, lucky by nature. I'm the luckiest person I know, and the luckiest person everyone else knows. When I was 8, I won a short story competition at school and got 15 pounds in book tokens. That same year, I also won a magazine competition. The prize was actually something Zola wanted, but seeing how I'm the lucky one, she entered my name instead of hers and won a makeup set, which she had to hide from Mom, as she doesn't like us wearing makeup. And of course, there have been all the birthday parties where I've beaten everyone else to the last seat in the musical chairs and unwrapped the last parcel and passed the parcel. And for the past 2 years in a row, it's been me who scooped the top raffle prize at my school's Christmas fete. The first year I won Ice Age and Ice Age 2 on DVD, and then just this Christmas I won a digital camera, which so got up Mariella's nose. She really couldn't handle the fact that I'd won again, and she tried to say the whole thing was a fix and that I must have bribed one of the teachers to make sure it was my raffle ticket that got pulled out. The horrible cow even got her dad to talk to the head teacher, Mr. Kingsley, so he could conduct an investigation into whether I'd cheated. Unfortunately for Mariella and her dad, Mr. Kingsley took my side and told them I was simply lucky, just like my surname, and asked could they stop wasting his time with their wild accusations. Mariella's spiteful thinks she's so special face was a picture. So back to my luck. Well, another thing I'm lucky with is finding money. And I'm not just talking about coins, but actual notes. It's like they appear by magic right in front of me wherever I am. £5 notes and £10 notes. And that's not all. I also have a very special ability. I dream about the winning lottery numbers. Yes, really, it's happened twice. And each time, three numbers out of the six actually come up. In the dreams, I'm watching the lottery show on the telly when the balls with my numbers on suddenly tumble out of the machine. Luckily, after both dreams, I've remembered the numbers. I wrote them down and gave them to my mom and dad, Auntie Louise, and Granny Doreen, and all of them won £10 both times. I also helped my auntie win money on a scratch card. One day we were in the sweet shop, and she told me to pick one of the containers with the cards in. I chose container number 5, and when she scratched off the card, she got 3 lucky stars in a row and won £100. She gave me £20 from it to say thank you, which I popped straight into my piggy bank. Granny Doreen reckons I've got a gift. She says I'm psychic, although I'm not sure that I want to be, as I've heard psychic people can see ghosts, and I never ever want to see a ghost. Go on, open it, said Zola as I added her card to the pile. I've put something special in there for you. I glanced at my sister suspiciously before picking up the card, but really I should have just given it straight back to her because as soon as I opened it, a loud burp went off in my face. Then, in a drunk voice, the card wished me happy birthday. Trust Zola. And the present, go on, open it, she said, laughing loudly. I narrowed my eyes at her as I unwrapped the present carefully in case it contained something gross too. But to my surprise, her present was actually lovely. She'd bought me a silver bangle embossed with little flowers. Thanks, Zola. I went round the table to give her a hug. Watch my hair. She pretended to fuss over her cornrows that Mom had plaited the previous night. So do you think you'll wear it this evening? Definitely, I smiled. We were planning to celebrate my birthday with a special dinner at a restaurant in the center of town. It's called the Royal Tandoori, and I was really excited about going and trying their chili sea bass, which Dad said tasted tremendous. He'd had to book our table ages ago, as the Royal Tandoori is always packed with customers. It's also very popular with celebrities, including my favorite singer, Corey T. I had my fingers crossed that he'd be there later when I went. Do you reckon we'll see anyone famous tonight? Asked Zola. You mean Corey T? She replied, sniggering. You're obsessed with him, Lolly. I can't understand why. I mean, it's not as if the boy can actually sing, plus he's ugly. No, he's not. He's gorgeous, I said. And he's the best singer out of all the singers in the world. And if he's at the restaurant tonight, I'm going to get his autograph. After I'd finished eating my breakfast, I opened my other cards and presents. Some of them had Lolliana written on the front, while the rest just said Lolly. Laliana is my proper name, but everyone who knows me calls me Lolly. My name is made up partly by Zola, of all people. My sister decided to give me half of my name when she came to the hospital on a snowy January day to see me for the first time. I was all wrapped up in my snuggly yellow blanket, my eyes squinting at her as she stared back, saying Lolly again and again. Zola can't remember if it's true that she wanted me to be called Lolly or actually wanted me to have a lick of a lollipop she was holding at the time. Mom and Dad had planned to name me Anna after Mom's favorite auntie who died before Zola and I were born, but when Mom tried to explain this to my sister, Zola started screaming her head off, causing me and all other newborns on the ward to burst out crying. So, to get Zola to shut up, my parents promised her they'd combine both names to make a new one. And that's the short story of how I got to be called Lolly. My card from Auntie Louise and her little girl Mariah had written Lolly on the envelope, and my auntie had colored in two yellow circles over the two eyes to look like lollipops. Inside the card was a 30-pound gift card for New York, or for New Look, which made me very happy as I wanted some new clothes. Even though Mariah's only 3 months old and can't talk yet, she's my favorite cousin. She's such a cutie and always giggles when you tickle her feet. They lived with us for a bit when Auntie Louise split up with Uncle Clive. It was brilliant having a baby around, although I don't think it was much fun for Auntie Louise. She cried more than Mariah, all because Uncle Clive had dumped her for another woman. I opened Granny I opened Granny Doreen's present next. She bought me the same present she gets me at every birthday, a pack of knickers. Unfortunately, my gran isn't very imaginative when it comes to presents and always buys knickers for the women and girls in my family. My present from Uncle Finn, Auntie Trish, and my twin cousins Calvin and Curtis was much better. They had got me a Corey T photo book with lots of stunning pictures of him inside, along with a Corey T calendar. The last card in the pile was from Great Uncle Ernest and was in a large silver envelope. As I opened it, I couldn't believe my eyes. Loads of 20 pounds notes scattered over my plate. Zola was just as shocked. Has Great Uncle Ernest robbed a bank or something? She gasped. We counted the money slowly and couldn't believe it. 300 pounds. Then we counted it again. Yes, it was 300 pounds. Great Uncle Ernest was always very generous, but this was crazy. Usually he'd slot in 50-pound notes, so I guess he must have been in a pretty good mood to have given me all this. I wish I could have said thank you, but I've never actually met Great Uncle Ernest or even spoken to him. Neither has Dad or Zola. He lives in an old people's home in Southland, but nobody ever sees him because he doesn't like having visitors. One thing I do know, though, is that Great Uncle Ernest never forgets my birthday, and I get money at Christmas, too. Why does Great Uncle Ernest give you money and never me? He treats me like I'm invisible. It's so unfair, hopped Zola. Well, maybe he'll remember your birthday next year, I replied, feeling sorry for my sister, but deep down we both knew Great Uncle Ernest probably wouldn't remember. He's never sent Zola cards or money for her birthday or Christmas, even though my mom's written him heaps of times to remind him she has two daughters, not one. But for some reason, Great Uncle Ernest just keeps forgetting. Mom reckons it's because he's old. Great Uncle Ernest is in his 80s. Still, I'm always pleased to receive a card from him and to show my appreciation. I like to make Great Uncle Ernest a paper fan every Christmas, which my mom posts to him. And with the fan, she also includes a recent photo of me. I collect fans too from all over the world. I buy them when we go on holiday, and so far I have fans from St. Lucia, Disney World, Spain, and Cyprus. My favorite is the one from Spain. It has a picture of a man and a woman dancing on it. In the picture, the woman is wearing a long red dress, and her black hair is slicked back into a bun. The man is wearing a brown suit and gazing into the woman's eyes. It's such a romantic picture, and sometimes I like to imagine that I'm the woman and the man is Chloe T. Just like every birthday since I was 5, I arrived at school armed with chocolates. Mom had bought me a tin of Quality Street to share with my class, and as usual, it was the yellow ones that went first, my absolute favorite. At break time, my best friend Nancy gave me a card to present. She'd bought me a lovely tiny teddy bear that was wearing a yellow bow tie. Nancy's been my best friend ever since I fell out with my former best friend Mariella in year 3. We used to really get on, Mariella and me, and would share each other's clothes and go to teach each other's sleepovers, but all that ended when she accused me of stealing her sparkly butterfly clip, a clip she said had real diamonds in it and had once belonged to some dead film star who was friends with her grand. She sent round telling everyone I was a thief, and it was all because Mr. Kingsley chose me to read my poem at the Christmas concert in a hurt, and she was jealous. I've never stolen anything in my life, but Mariella had me feeling like a right criminal. Plus, she threatened to get her dad to call the police on me. For weeks, she went on and on about the clip, so much so that other kids in our class started to hide their pens and pencils whenever I came near. I lost so many mates because of her, so after that, as far as I was concerned, Mariella Snedden was no longer my friend. The only person who didn't hide their feelings from me was Nancy. In fact, she was more than happy to share her stuff, and for a while was the only person who'd hang out with me at break and at lunchtime. I'm glad Nancy's my best friend. I just wish I'd made the effort to get to know her way back in reception. The problem was she was always so quiet and didn't seem to want to talk to anybody. At first, I thought she was being stuck up, but the reason she was like that was because she had a lot on her mind. Her parents were going through a divorce, and poor Nancy was playing piggy in the middle as they fought over her custody. She wasn't being stuck up at all. Nancy's actually the least stuck up person I know. She's very kind, very thoughtful, and has never accused me of being a thief. We have a lot in common, Nancy and me. We both love Corey T, The Color Yellow, and our favorite films are The Princess and the Frog, Night at the Museum, and Back to the Future. The first and second film, but not the third film. We have the same sister twist hairstyles and both play in the school netball team. I play goal attack, Nancy plays center, and our sleepovers are way better than any of the sleepovers I had with Mariella. I prefer going to Nancy's house though, as she has these two sweet bunny rabbits called Cheese and Pickle, who will hop into your arms like little acrobats chomping away on the carrots and lettuce you feed them. Nancy lives with her mom, Diane, who's really nice and lets you stay up really late when our sleepovers are on Friday or Saturday night. It's great because we get to eat midnight snacks and sing songs Nancy's written herself. Nancy wants to be a singer songwriter when she grows up, and I think she'll be very successful as her voice is amazing. When I grow up, I think I'll be an events manager like my mom. Her job is so cool, especially when she gets to organize these really glamorous parties, which are held in swish hotels and art galleries. Plus, all the parties guests get to drink champagne and eat canapes. I don't know what a canapé is. Canapé. Hors d'oeuvres. Yeah. Sometimes, if there are canapes left over, Mom will bring them home, which is always awesome because they'll be miniature versions of my favorite foods like fish and chips and toad in the hole. One time, Mom even brought home these crisps that had been made out of pig's ears, but I didn't like them. Zola did, though. Thanks for the present, I said to Nancy, stroking the belly of my new teddy bear. That's okay. So, did you get your bike? I shook my head. No, I'm getting it tonight. My mom and dad still think I don't know, but I'm going to pretend to be totally surprised. I made Nancy laugh as I showed her the astonished face I was planning to pull, my mouth open as wide as the Titanic, and my eyes literally popping out of my head. All day I couldn't stop thinking about my bike, imagining myself riding it down the road and all the way up the park to Crofton Lane. When the final bell went, my heart was beating so fast I thought I might actually faint from all the excitement. But when Zola and I got home, Mom was on the sofa with Dad sitting opposite, his hands cupped together and his head bowed. At first, I was surprised to see him home so early, as he's never normally in until about 7. But when he looked up at me, his eyes puffy and red, I knew something terrible had happened. What is it, Dad? I asked worriedly. I'm sorry, girls, but I've got some bad news, he said, wiping his eyes with a tissue. It's my boss. He's had to let me go. I've lost my job. And there it was, my 11th birthday, a birthday which I thought was going to be my best ever, had turned into my worst. Hey. I felt really scared after Dad told us he'd lost his job, and when my parents gave me my bike, it didn't feel quite so special anymore. And we didn't go to the Royal Tandoori. No one really felt like it, so Mom ordered a takeaway pizza, but I could hardly eat any of mine, my stomach feeling sore with all the worry. Dad's company, Havers and Cole, had made him redundant. At first, I wasn't sure what making someone redundant was, but Dad quickly explained that it's when a company gets rid of people they can't afford to keep on, and they give them some money called a redundancy package to sort of say sorry for giving them the boot. Dad said the company had been losing money, so that's why they'd had to do this. I felt like ringing up Dad's bosses, Mr. Havers and Mr. Cole, to see if they needed any help with finding their missing money so my dad could get his job back. But Dad said the money would never be recovered. It was simply lost forever. My dad worked as a financial analyst, and his job involved having to do lots of difficult sums. I'm sure he found the sums easy as he's a genius when it comes to maths. I can ask my dad any maths question and he'll give me the answer quicker than a calculator. And to think I did so much for that company, Dad said, throwing down a slice of pizza. I was working 14 hours a day when they were chasing that big deal with the American bank. I didn't get to see any of you as I was practically living at the office. I knew they were planning redundancies, but my manager assured me my job would be safe. He said I had nothing to worry about. I should have known he'd stab me in the back. How much redundancy money do you think you'll get? Mom asked. Well, I've only been there for 2.5 years, so I doubt I'll get the same as Jake, said Dad solemnly. The poor sod gave 30 years to that company. You should have seen his face, love, when they gave him the news. I've never seen a man more devastated. Make sure you speak to the job center tomorrow. We won't get by on just my wages, said Mom. We seriously need two salaries coming in, Austin. And I think we'd better forget about going to Ghana in the summer. There's no way we'll be able to afford it now. I'll get another job, love. Please don't fret about the holiday. We are going to be all right for money, though, aren't we? Zola asked as her eyes shuffled over to where I was sitting. Molly's bike must have cost you loads. Are you sure we can afford it? Because she's can always get a bike next year, can't you, Lolly? And I hardly ever play with my Xbox, so you could sell that too. Suddenly, I felt really guilty. I didn't want to have to give back my bike, not when I'd only just got it, but I didn't want my family to not have any money. Yeah, sure, we can get a bike next year, I mumbled. I don't mind if you want to take it back. No, Lolly, the bike is your birthday present, Dad insisted. Your mom and I know how much you've wanted one, so there's no way on earth we'd take it away from you. And there's no need for us to sell your Xbox either, Zola. Mom nodded her head in agreement. We'll be okay for money. We just have to be a bit more careful, that's all. I don't want any of you worrying that we haven't got enough, said Dad. Mom gave him a hug. We love you, don't we, girls? Someone as clever as you, I'm sure you'll have a new job in no time. Thanks, love. The first thing I'll do tomorrow is call some recruitment agencies. What are they, Dad? I asked. People who help others find jobs. I'll help you find a job if you want, I said, trying to be helpful. He smiled gently. Thanks, Lollipop, but I think I'll be okay finding a job myself. I'm Austin Luck, remember? With a surname like mine, something's bound to turn up. Despite Dad telling us not to worry, I couldn't help it, and I didn't sleep a wink that night. A long train of questions chewing through my mind. What if Dad couldn't find a job? What then? How would we pay for food? How would we pay for heating bills? Our house would be freezing if we couldn't have a heating on. I decided to see if Zola had any answers, but as it was the middle of the night, she wasn't too pleased to see me. She even let out a little scream. What is it, loser? What do you want? She croaked, rubbing her eyes as I switched on her bedroom light. I can't sleep, Zola. I'm worried. Worried about what? Dad. Oh, she muttered, and slowly heaved herself up. I'm scared he won't find another job, I said, all in a panic. And if he doesn't, we might not have any money for anything. We won't be able to buy clothes or go on school trips, and we might not even have enough money to buy food. Mom's always complaining about how pricey food is. We might have to start eating beans and rice like those people in the jungle show on telly. You think too much, said Zola, yawning. I do understand why you're worried, but trust me, we're not going to starve. Do you think I should give Mom and Dad the money Great Uncle Ernest gave me? Zola shrugged. I guess you could, but then she shook her head. No, Lolly, that money's yours to keep. And besides, you heard Dad. He doesn't want us to worry. Look, I'm sure things will be okay. As I slopped off back to my room, I really hoped Zola was right, that things would be okay. Only they weren't. At first, it was brilliant having Dad at home all the time. Every morning, he'd walk me and Zola to the bus stop, and we'd chat about loads of things, from how badly his football team were doing to films we wanted to see at the cinema. Then, when we got in from school, Dad would help us with our homework and sometimes take me to the park so I could have a ride on my bike. He even made chocolate brownies with us, which wasn't something he'd normally do since he wasn't very good at baking, but they turned out well. However, after about 3 weeks of not having a job, things started to change. It was like Dad had suddenly become a different person, a totally miserable, moody person. He began to have long lie-ins, which meant neither Zola nor I got to see him before we left for school. Then, when we got home, he was either sitting at the computer applying for jobs over the internet or was on the phone chatting to recruitment agencies. And wherever he went, his mobile and his house phone went too, when he wasn't talking on the phone, because when he wasn't talking on one of them, he was waiting for them to ring. He even started to take the phones with him to the toilet. I can't miss a single call, he'd say. It might be a recruitment consultant who wants to talk to me about a new role that's come in. To begin with, he'd only searched for jobs during the day, but quickly his entire time had become occupied with finding one, and it was like he didn't want to talk to us anymore. He stopped asking Zola and me how school was going and stopped helping us with our homework, and he stopped taking me to the park. He'd tell Zola to go with me, but most of the time she didn't want to, which meant the only place I got to ride my bike was up and down the road. Our road. Plus, he didn't want to make any more chocolate brownies. And when I did manage to get a conversation out of Dad, nothing he said ever seemed to make any sense. I feel like I'm in a pool filled with quicksand. And as much as I try to pull myself out, I'm still stuck, he said to me one day when I asked him how he was feeling. The other stuff that came out of Dad's mouth would mostly be a rant about job center and recruitment consultants that were wasting his time by continually asking him if he was looking for a job and actually doing anything to help him find a job. Mom found it tricky to get a conversation out of him too, and he hardly ever joined us at the dining table for dinner, preferring to sit by himself in the living room, one eye on the telly, the other eye on the phones. Then, when one of the phones eventually rang, it was like two electrical hearts pads had been placed against Dad's chest, shocking him back to life, his gloomy face lighting up as he launched to answer it. But more often, his excitement would turn into disappointment when he realized it wasn't a recruitment consultant at the other end, but Granny Doreen telling him to hurry along with finding a job. I tried to cheer Dad up by making him some paper fans. I had to use old newspapers and magazines, though, as Dad wouldn't let me use the printer paper because that was reserved for his CVs. I decorated the fans with sticky stars and glitter and drew on smiley faces, but unfortunately they didn't do the trick. Dad stayed miserable. I would have loved for my luck to have rubbed off on Dad, but it probably wouldn't have worked because I wasn't feeling too lucky myself. I hadn't spotted any money on the ground in ages, and so I wanted to find some to help my parents out. On top of all that, I had some sad news of my own. Mrs. Avery, my favorite teacher ever, was going on maternity leave in a few months' time. A supply teacher would be filling in for her, and none of my class was looking forward to it. I was worried the supply teacher would be some grumpy pants who liked sending kids out of the room if they dared to interrupt while they were speaking. My year four teacher, Mrs. Barnes, had been like that, and at one point it felt like I was spending more time sitting in the corridor than sitting at my desk. A few of us had formed a group to make Mrs. Avery's leaving card. We decided to meet up once a week at lunchtime to make it a picture of a baby boy because that's what Mrs. Avery had told us she was expecting. Big Mouth Mariella had put herself in charge of the group and also the list that we had put our names on to do certain parts of the picture. Sanjay Kumar was doing the baby's left eye, Kayla Kennedy the right eye, Alice Chang would be doing the nose and mouth, Ian Metcalf the ears, Dominic Foster the body, and I was planning to do the flower bed that the baby would be sitting on. But that cow Mariella went and deliberately crossed my name out, replacing it with the name of her newest best friend, Trinity Hibbard. No offense, she said to me at the first card making session, but I think Trinity will do a nicer job with the flower bed. She's very creative, she'll make the flowers look exquisite. I was ready to have it out with Mariella, tell her what I thought of her selfish, snotty attitude, but Nancy calmly persuaded me not to, so I ended up getting lumbered with drawing the baby's hair, which I wasn't the least bit happy about. Still, I tried to make the best of it and brought my special felt tip pins to do yellow tufts of hair with a few orange strands thrown in as Mrs. Avery had a few gingery bits in her hair. I thought it looked lovely until Mariella stuck her nose in and started ranting and raving that I'd made the baby look like he'd been given an electric shock. The next thing I knew, she was cutting out a magazine picture of some woman's hair and had gone and stuck it over the baby's head. Nancy had decided to get involved in the card making sessions when she found out her latest crush, Kofi Adu, would be drawing the baby's bottle. Mariella had given Nancy the job doing the baby's nappy, but she only came to 3 sessions and spent most of her time staring at Kofi and turning her head away whenever she looked back at her. The baby's nappy was made out of white flannel that Nancy had brought in from home. It had a safety pin stuck to it using blue tack, which apparently was what moms used to do in the olden days before they had Pampers. One day, Wayne Clements offered to pour some apple juice over the nappy to make it look more realistic, which had Mariella practically steaming at the ears like some crazy cartoon character. Ugh, that's rank. There's no way you're pouring anything over that nappy, she screamed. Do you actually have a brain, Wayne? Or were you just born stupid? Wayne was only trying to make himself useful, but the way Mariella was carrying on, you'd think he'd gone and murdered somebody. I was seriously getting fed up with her nasty attitude, so much so that part of me wished I'd never got involved in making Mrs. Avery's card in the first place. At home, things were getting worse, with Mom regularly on Dad's case for not helping her around the house. You're leaving me to do everything, Austin, she'd say. It's not fair, especially when you've been here all day. Surely it wouldn't have taken you 2 minutes to put out the rubbish or pick up some milk from the corner shop. I don't have the time to do those things, Marion. I need to keep up my job search so I can get myself some interviews. Sadly, Dad didn't get invited to any interviews. He applied for tons of jobs, but all he got back were rejections or simply no answer at all. And it was awful because he just became more and more disheartened. Very quickly, the cheerful, happy-to-go-lucky dad I was used to began to disappear right in front of my eyes. All right. So this is what we have to work with here. Job search, uh, job searching, job recruitment agency. Yeah, I think I'm just going to do the job recruitment thing. I mean, I clearly haven't read. All right, let's kind of jump through. Let's see what else is going on. I'm sorry, this is. I feel like I have to read this book to finish this itinerary. The job recruiter thing just doesn't really seem right. Um, okay, so we're going to keep reading this book and I'll get these things posted this weekend. I'm not sure why this page doesn't want to load. These are not loading anymore. There we go. I'm gonna have to finish this one up later.